I have gotten really good at being redundant and saying the same thing over and over again. It can feel like on our end that we're just beating a dead horse. And it's because you see every piece of content you put out, you read every email you put out, and you hear every podcast. But unless your audience is a diehard and they are watching every little thing you do, they're probably in your offer or they're obsessed with you. Otherwise, they're not seeing everything.
It gets boring being redundant. And then when it gets boring, our brains do all sorts of things because that's how they're designed, to seek like more stimulation. And sometimes we forget like boring is working, the numbers are well. If you know the lead to sale conversion rate and then you walk through some key steps like what were the number of registrants, what percentage showed up, what were the number of purchases, and what was that revenue, the number we all love, you have enough numbers to get that lead to sale conversion rate and also figure out how valuable each of your launch registrants are worth. That is key to figuring out how much we can spend on ads and if ads are worth running. Okay, I've done this launch, a couple times. I feel like I should change what I teach in the free workshop or free program for the next launch because people must be getting bored. You get that one?
A lot. And it's funny because I'll change the
Hey, course creator friend, have you ever wondered how you would know if you're ready for meta ads after having one or two successful launches of your course? Because if you have, you can see that Megan Yelaney is right here on screen with me in the studio, and she just had two successful launches that grossed $166,000 for her distinctive Edge framework. She hasn't started running Facebook and Instagram ads yet, and we're here to look at her launch numbers. She's already decided that running ads is the next step, but we're going to break down what signals are showing from the launches that it is time to run Facebook ads, to borrow a very overused cliche, add Facebook and Instagram ads fire or fuel to a fire that is already burning. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this and just kind of continue the momentum we had when you were on mine. So I'm really pumped to be here.
Yay. And I was on your podcast. That was a fun time. I can't wait to dive in more into the episode and also sprinkle it with just the stuff that's going on in our personal lives. Like you and me get along so well.
I agree. I'm excited.
Me too. Let's read your bio. Megan Yelaney. Am I saying that right? I always feel like I'm not.
No, it's perfect. Most people don't. So I'm very impressed. It's like Delaney with a Y. That's what I always tell people.
Oh, okay. Delaney with a Y. So, Megan Yelaney, you're a business strategist who has helped over 1,000 coaches grow their brands by getting crystal clear on what makes them actually different and using that to create demand. And then, with your distinctive edge framework, congratulations on that launch, or those two launches, by the way. With that framework, clients go from struggling to standing out to get consistent sales, to finally being clear on how to fully manage themselves and talk about what they do and getting hired because of it. So some have hit 10K months for the first time, and others have had multi six or even multi million dollar businesses. You're a twin mom to Aiden and Kevin, and a fur mom to a mini golden doodle, Luna, musical theater junkie, and an avid fantasy smut reader. I am blushing just reading those last three words, but you can't tell because of my marvelous complexion.
I love
Welcome back.
it. Oh, that's amazing. I love that was so great to watch you read that.
Right? I mean, I don't know. I'm in a group with you, like a Mixermind mastermind group, and like I'll be honest, like there's finally two other guys this year, but for the past 2 years it's been all women. And when we meet up, I'm just like, okay, as a man, I'm paying my dues. Like women are used to being in a man's world. I am clearly in a women's world. I many times I'm like, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut and nobody can see me blushing, and I'm not gonna say anything or add to the conversation because it would be wildly inappropriate for me to open my mouth at all based on what I'm hearing being discussed around me.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in your mind during those conversations. That's hysterical.
What do I say? Like, oh man, I won't say any names because this is on the podcast, but like the most memorable time was sitting at the in-person retreat and then hearing various things and then seeing the MC like with very exaggerated hand motions talking about big V energy, and that was the most podcast friendly thing I could say. Like, I'm just like, "All right, cool, I'll clap when the other women clap, I'll cheer, and I just won't I don't know what to say."
You're like, I'm gonna
So
take the cues off of everyone around the room. Follow
right?
along.
But wow. So, your launches, where do you wanna start? You're at the point right now where you've already talked to me about running ads, and you're going to start off running ads to yourself. Can you please, just for the listener, outline what kind of launch is this that's launching, 6 figures for your course? Like, start there. How do you launch? Webinar, workshop, challenge?
No, this is great. So I have sort of I don't want to say a longer launch period because everyone's launch period, differs, of course, but I like to think of my runway as like at least a 12-ish week runway, anywhere from 8 to 12, which I'm sure is pretty typical. But what I always start with is my private invites to any warm leads. And it's such a simple thing, but something that I notice whenever I have clients come in, they skip it. They forget to like privately reach out to those past leads, past people that they've had there on applications with some kind of bonus. So that's actually proven pretty fruitful. And for me, it's more of a confidence thing. When I know I have a couple people, even 3 or 4 people signed up before I even go into my runway. It just gives me this like boost of confidence. So that's been like a kind of a crucial small step. And then I've tended to do kind of a multi step launch. So I've done a freebie that is very targeted towards whatever the launch is. And then I will sometimes do a low ticket workshop in between. So I did that for the second launch that I did, or I'll skip right to a conversion event. And mine usually are 3 days. I haven't done a one-off webinar for this, but I will say that low ticket workshop is a webinar, just a low ticket, obviously paid workshop. So I can kind of walk through if it's helpful, like the first launch, different vehicles that I used to kind of showcase if that's helpful.
Sure. Before we do, let me clarify that I'm understanding right for the listener too. Your launch typically includes it starts with a low ticket paid workshop that then goes into a 3-day launch, or the low ticket paid workshop is over 3 days?
So I understand why that's confusing. I have one launch I did have a low ticket workshop, and it was a kind of it was like a mini launch before the big launch, if that makes sense. So I did it like a month and a half before I wanted to actually start the program, just to kind of plant the seed and see if I had any warmer people. And then I had 8 people join from that. And they got bonuses for joining quite early. Like, again, they were like 5 or 6 weeks before the program. Then anyone who wasn't ready to say yes to the program, they got invited to the 3-day conversion event that happened about 3 or 4 weeks later. And then from that that was free 3-day conversion event, we launched into the program. And I don't do that all the time, the low ticket event, but I wanted to experiment with it because I hadn't done something low ticket in a while. And for me, it really proved pretty fruitful because, again, even the people that didn't sign up right then and there, they got a really quick win. They learned my process. They heard a lot about the program, so that when they did come to the conversion event 4 weeks later, they were so much more warmed up already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I I love it when I hear another course creator that can offer a paid workshop that leads into their launch, because it's a beautiful thing because you're making money on the front end just from the workshop. Or if you're not quite making money from the workshop, if you're running ads, I'm jumping the gun, but we're going to talk about ads. But I love it because even if, let's say, it's like a $17 paid workshop and you don't quite break even on the getting the registrants into the paid workshop, once you're running meta ads, it's still a much better. We're all, I'm not saying certain people are better than others, but the quality of the person who joins, the level of intention of the person who joins a paid workshop is obviously going to be higher than somebody who comes for free, right? Because they're already putting money down.
I have noticed that even those people who joined right then and there, and the ones who I noticed did the paid, didn't join, did the free, and then joined. So there was a little bit more of a lag for them. I did notice a difference between how they showed up in the program and just like the engagement that they had, the commitment that they have, I definitely noticed a difference. So it's interesting that you said that. Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of take a segue before I ask that, but I do want before you answer, but I do want to know, how did you decide to even try a paid workshop? Because I know that paid workshops, there's plenty of scenarios where they do not work. And I don't want the listener who doesn't have a paid workshop but does have a launch to decide, oh, I'm going to do a paid launch event or a paid workshop just because I heard it on the podcast. So, like, if you could share a little bit about your decision process to go for the paid workshop and launch your course off the back end of that. But before you do that, for those of you watching us on YouTube, I have this neck thing around or my neck because I'm in pain from compressed nerves. Hello, 44. And Megan, in your background, we were laughing about this earlier because you're like, do you want me to show the better lighting that has the boxes in the background or the worst lighting that makes it look like it's all together? And I'm like, as if anyone else that's worked from home had like their dream home with their dream office setup like given to them. Like we all have gone through a mess, but you're in the middle, you're still completing a move, right?
Yep. Yeah, we moved. No, I love it. I was like, I need to call attention to these huge boxes behind me for the viewers. Yes, we moved. Gosh, it's almost 3 weeks ago. It's been such a blur. It feels like it was months ago. It feels like it was yesterday in a way. We moved 3 weeks ago, and we also had two pretty sick kiddos right at the time of the move. It was great timing. So it's been quite chaotic, but it's actually kind of perfect that we're talking about what we are today because we hired movers, packers, so I guess packers and then movers, and then organizers for this move. And it was a big investment and it was 110% worth it. And especially with the sickness that happened, but with their coming back this weekend actually to finish the office because we didn't quite finish. But honestly, a lot of why we were able to do that were these launches. I actually talked about that a lot in the last coming weeks. Like, I don't know if we would have been able to do that extra expense, if it wasn't for this big cash injection that we had. So it is all full circle, and those boxes will be not here soon, but we're making do, and the office is going to be beautiful. And it's so funny. Just like a side note, I was talking about this with a friend the other day, so I just popped in my head. The year that I had my biggest income growth, like just when I really catapulted to the next level, I was working off of a snack table in a office that had literally nothing on the walls. I still had boxes for almost a year. We never like really unpacked that apartment. It just didn't have the energy we wanted. We knew that was not our forever place and was the year I grew the most. So it's just so funny when I think I always want everything to look nice and be perfect. I'm like, man, I was working from a snack table that year, which is so wild to think about. It just popped in my head. I had to share that.
I love that you shared that because we miss out an opportunity. This is the Thomas Jefferson quote because it's dressed in overalls and it looks like work. And so many times, like the listener probably like right now is thank God for you sharing that it actually took some work and you didn't just start off your successful business in a beautifully lit office that you rent downtown, because we all like I loved it during the like the peak of the pandemic when we were all online and then they would do this thing on Zoom where they're like, all right, everybody like turn your camera around and show where you're really working from, not just the curated studio scene that we see within the
I
the
love
video
that.
shot.
That's
But
great.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can relate to that. I can relate
Yeah,
to that.
for sure.
Okay. So please walk us through that decision to try the paid workshop. And then, so you and the listener know where I'm going in my ads manager mind is there are some pretty tried and true ways to make a very educated guess that running ads to a launch would be a profitable move. And so, like, after Megan shares about how she decided to do her, to try out a paid workshop, we're going to look at something that I always ask my clients or potential clients when they're considering a launch or working with me for a launch, which is what is their lead to sell conversion rate for their previous launches. And so we're going to get into that in a moment, but if you know the lead to sale conversion rate and then you walk through some key steps like what were the number of registrants, what percentage showed up, what were the number of purchases, and what was that revenue, the number we all love, at the end, you have enough numbers to back up to get that lead to sale conversion rate and also figure out how valuable each of your launch registrants are worth. And that is key to figuring out how much we can spend on ads and if ads are worth running because you got to pay for leads when you have an ad. And so you need to know how much at the bottom of the funnel those leads are worth. That is the teaser. Megan, how did you decide to try a paid launch?
Yeah, I was just like so zoned in. I'm like, wait, I just learned so much in that like minute that you were just talking. So thank you. Yeah, so I love that you asked this because I think it's so, like you said, so easy to hear a strategy and go, that's the one I'm going to try. And to me, I kind of looked at this as like my mid between launch like lull that I usually experience. So I had a launch in June. It ended the day before my birthday. So I remember it was June 13th. My birthday's on the 14th. It ended on June 13th. And I had planned not to do my next launch until September. And so I said, it's summer. People are a little bit slower, taking vacations, all that jazz. And I felt like it felt a long time away. I said it felt a little bit long time away. I had all these leads that obviously didn't purchase, this is the first time I was really publicly talking about this program. I had run it behind the scenes 2 times. And so I thought, why not take a little piece out of my process, a little piece out of my framework. And the piece that I notice a lot of clients have like a really big breakthrough with that kind of opens up all these other, whoa, now how do I go implement this further? So it's kind of solves a problem and creates a problem in a sense for them. I said, what if I took that out and just taught it as its own like little mini course or class and kind of just use that as a mini cash injection, hopefully, whether it's just from the workshop sales or workshop sales and ideally people signing up for the program early. But I really looked at it as a between launch kind of fill that void because I never planned to, or I should say, I always planned to do a free event going into the actual program. For me, that's what I've always done. It's always worked really well. It worked really well in June. So I was going to rinse and repeat it. And so this was kind of like a fun, I have the time, I have the space capacity, a lot of these leads. And I just didn't want to wait until September and I wanted to experiment and test. And it worked really well. And again, I think the reason it worked well was most of the people who ended up joining and then going into my program were warmed up from the previous event. So they just like weren't quite ready. And so that like 2 months after sweet spot was when they were. And there were great bonuses and things that they could get if they signed up early before the next one. So that's kind of how I thought of it was like, let's fill the gap between the launches.
Okay, fill the gap between the launches. You did not have the paid workshop at your first launch in June. You chose to run it a month before your September launch, which was August.
Yep, exactly. Yep. I ran it at the beginning. I think it was August 8th that I ran the paid workshop. And then my launch event happened I believe it was the first or second week of September. And we started the program the end of September. So those people were signing up like a good 6 weeks early to the program.
Nice. Okay, now, did this just come to you? I mean, I see what you're skilled at, but how does one decide that a lot of folks after a first successful launch are not the ones who didn't buy aren't interested, but could be interested in a paid workshop? Like, were you looking at certain stats or was it like a gut instinct?
I think it was a little bit of both. I was kind of, honestly, I was really basing it on my actual clients and what I kind of saw. Okay, when they got this breakthrough, it was such a domino for them. So much clicked after this one thing. I'm like, okay, this keeps coming up. So that was one. The other thing was a lot of my audience was also asking, kind of, if you pulled that out, would you just sell that to us? Like, I feel like I got a lot of the other pieces, but would you just sell this one little piece? Which, of course, as we know, you can't really, because if you're missing all the other pieces, it's that one's not going to work, right? And so that's something that when I did pull it out, I made that really clear in the workshop. I said, hey, you can go ahead and apply this, and is it going to help you move forward? 100%. I wouldn't sell it if it didn't. But if you really want it to do its job, you do need the whole system, right? And so I presented all of that. And so it was really a combination of the clients getting results from this like one breakthrough moment, people asking for that. And then also just in the past having done some low ticket things and feeling like, man, I only have this high ticket program, or I guess it's mid ticket program. I would love to offer my audience something smaller for them to get a little bit of a taste. Whether they end up joining or not, it's, money in my pocket too. It's them getting a win and having some of that traction, regardless if they join or not. So it was kind of that. It wasn't really based on like data or anything, although I probably should have looked into that a little bit more, but more of a gut instinct.
Well, I mean, first of all, there was some good data. You had a first launch that, well, you said 156K total between the two launches. So that first launch,
The first one was 70K.
so you off the back end of a 70K launch, you had people asking about this piece of your framework that you could pull out, and you had your like paid clients, customers. Excuse me for a second. You're launching a program or a course? A program.
A group program.
A group program. I think I misspoke about that earlier, but you had people who were in your group program also asking about just that part too.
Yeah. Basically that part was such a like, I always say to everyone, like, what's that piece of your process that everything else gets a little bit easier or more clear after they go through that? And it's usually the hardest part. It's usually the one that they resist the most and don't want to do the work, but it really is the domino. Everything else can fall into place once they get that down. And so I was nervous to pull that out because I'm like, this is the gold, right? I don't want people to just run away and think that's it. But again, I made it very clear, like, it solves a problem. They go, wow, okay, I needed this. For me, it's very inception-y. It was about frameworks. It was creating your framework. So I was pulling out of my own framework. But then how do I market my framework? How do I talk about it in a way that it's going to meet the client where they're at? How do I put it into content? All of these other questions came up that my program solves. So it was kind of like a nice solve the problem, create almost a new problem for them to realize they need the program to solve.
Okay. All right. It's time to dive into the numbers just for the workshop. And then we'll circle back around and dive into the numbers for maybe for time's sake, for the second launch. Cool.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do it.
For that workshop, how much did the workshop cost?
The workshop was $47.
$47. All right, cool. Just making sure I remember that. And then how many people paid for that workshop?
We had 30 people, so not a lot. I didn't run any ads. It was one thing I will say is I didn't market it like I would now. I sent a couple emails out. I did a couple posts. It was a very like, hey, I feel like doing this. Let's do it. So if I did give it its due diligence, I think it would have sold more, but we had 30 people in.
Okay, cool. So my calculator says that's $1,410 in revenue from the workshop divided by those 30 people, gives you 47, because my brain, dear listener, give me some grace when I start to crunch numbers and go in a logical way, because I am on medication for compressed nerves and I only just started last night, and I feel quite woozy. When I turn this way, the world follows me, but on like a delay. And walking downstairs and doing all the morning things and getting my kids to school a it was interesting. But here we go. Here we go.
Oh my gosh. Oh, one thing I should add though for this, because this might be helpful for the listener too, is I actually had an order bump as well.
Ooh, okay.
So it did. I can get the exact numbers for you, but I had, you can probably do them fast math. I had 9 people purchase an upsell, which was 147. So add that to the 47.
Hold on, is that an order bump or an upsell?
Sorry, an order bump. Incorrect terminology. So before they checked out, they could add I did a Voxer day. So basically they could submit their framework to me to review and give them feedback on. So if I do the math, that's 1323 just from that order bump.
So what this says is you should have an order bump every time you sell something.
Yeah. I didn't expect to get that many. That was like almost a third of the people got the order bump.
9 divided by 40, 9 order bump takers divided by, not 47, by 30. See, I'm telling you, my numbers. That's all right. Nine uptakes on the order bump divided. That's 30%. That's huge.
Yeah. So the total I think was 2733 for the between the workshop attendees and then the order bump attendees or people.
Oh, so not 1410, but 2733.
Yeah, because I had 30 people pay 47, and then 9 of those people also paid the 147 order bump.
These numbers are just getting better.
I was like, wait, I have to add that because I think that was a real crucial part of the conversion, honestly, was those 9 people, 5 of those 9 converted into my program.
Oh, we're jumping the gun. We're jumping the
Oh,
gun. But
sorry, sorry, sorry. Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there.
we're gonna
I'm
get
getting
there. We're gonna get
excited
there.
talking about it.
That conversion rate is wow. Okay, so
It was a good rate. Yeah.
it was a good rate. I'm loving what I'm hearing. The workshop title was what?
The workshop title was Your Process Packaged. Let me get the exact title. I have it because I actually have it on my website now. Your Process Packaged, Build the Framework that makes people get it and buy it.
Your process package, build the framework that makes people get it and buy it. Get it and buy it. Cool. All right. And so then the order bump was a Voxer day with you to cover.
To go over their framework. So basically, if they in the workshop, I give them a homework document to map out their framework as we're going through it in the class. The idea is like they do it with me on the workshop. And so they're really utilizing that time. And then they submit that to me and I review it. I give them a loom back, like saying, okay, great. I love this. I would tweak this. This needs more clarity, just giving them some coaching. And then they have a day in Voxer where they could ask questions and go back and forth with me about it.
Nice. Okay. So I'm understanding that Voxer as a review plus like tailored personalized feedback on the framework. So super, super aligned. And it shows because 30% of the people
Did really well.
went to that. So like that's key. I love those numbers. Tell me about, let's just jump to the good part that you shared. Of the 47 of the 30 people that registered, how many converted? So like first of all, how much did you sell your program for? What bonuses or discounts did you offer your group coaching program for your coaching program off the back end of that workshop, and then how many people bought?
Yeah. So I have 2 tiers. I have a base tier, which is 2,500. It's a 3-month program, or my VIP tier, which is 4,000. That gets 2 one-on-one calls with me, material reviews, things like that. So just more one-on-one feedback. So I think that's also why the Voxer, if they love that feedback and the Loom, they're like, "Ooh, I want the VIP." So out of those 30, we had 8 people sign up. So I think it was like 23% ish, something like that. Um, I'm pretty sure that's accurate. I've done that math.
8 divided by 30. Yep, 20, 26, 27%.
Okay, I was down. So 26, 27%. So 8 of the 30. And I will say, I think 4 signed up that weekend where we had some bonuses. And then 4 trickled in over the next couple weeks. So they might have missed the bonus deadline, but they were like, I can't stop thinking about it. I don't want to wait until the event. Right. So 8 in total came right from that workshop within a few weeks. And out of that, I believe it was half and half. So 4 were VIP and 4 chose base.
So now I'm curious, what bonuses moved people to pay between $2,500 and 4,000 uh, for the VIP version the weekend of? Like, tell me about those bonuses, and then any insight you want to have to the email sequence. Or actually, you know what? Hold on. We're not going to talk about the email sequences or all of the bonuses because of time. And you have something to share with a listener, and I believe you go into all this in detail with a listener, right?
I do. Yeah, I do actually. So, yeah.
So, dear listener, what we're talking about, and there is a link for this in the description below, is it's called the Edge Led Launch System, and it literally is where Megan goes into this framework and the details of her launches that generated $166,000 from these 2 launches. At the time of the recording of this video would be this September 2025, and then in June 2025. And she hooked up a huge discount for you because you're listening to the Art of Online Business podcast. Like, she already sold this, by the way, for up to $147 to like her email list subscribers, and you get it right now for $47. And so that is huge. What else do you want to add about that, Megan?
Yeah, yeah. This really is where I walk through what I like to call activation points in the launch. So, what are those points along the journey that I really activated my audience, either to buy or go, okay, this is the program I need next. I have to sign up for this event or this next thing. And so I dissect not only mine, but that wouldn't be as helpful to the audience. I go, what is the belief you need to shift? What's the purpose of the freebie? What's the purpose of the conversion event? What's the purpose of the low ticket workshop if you want to do that? So I really walk through that so that you can really map out your own version of this, whether you take a couple pieces or use them all, whatever you want, you'll figure that out. But it's really like based on what will help move the needle forward for your launches so you feel really structured for it.
I like it. I like it. Well, that is linked up in the description below. That sounds like even though we've been talking before the podcast, and I'm interviewing you right now, I kind of want to go get that for myself.
I love it. It's
um,
great. I will say I
yeah,
was very, very proud of myself for this one. We worked really hard at this one, and it was our Black Friday special, so we wanted to, put our all into it to end the year.
right on, right on. Okay, and so you covered the bonuses and the emails in that workshop too, or
We go over a little bit of the emails and the bonuses. Yeah, I dive into how to pick the right bonus, and I can share like I do share this on there as well. I'm happy to share my bonus. I don't I That's like such a tiny piece of it, but I think the biggest thing is to ask like what moves your people. Everyone's people are so different, and I know my audience, especially with this work, they like more hands on, more one on one, more feedback. So the bonus was they got a bonus call regardless of their level. So base level doesn't get any one-on-one, but if they joined, they did get a one-on-one call during their time in the program. So that was a big bonus. They got access to the curriculum right away so they could start going through the first phase of the program. So I guess technically they got access to the first phase. And there's a lot built into that first phase, which for your audience, there's a lot of course creators. It's, all of that where they don't need my feedback to really start seeing traction. So that was exciting because they felt like they could almost be ahead of the game. And then I also had an extended payment plan since we weren't starting for 6 7 weeks. I said, hey, we'll do a 5 month payment plan instead of a three, and that really helps people as well.
nice. So the cost of the program became more accessible through an extended payment program. That was a limited time bonus for signing up, like, basically right then and there after the workshop, and then they got early access, which you didn't say this, but my mind jumped to this. A lot of the time, like, I tend to be a procrastinator, and I've really had to challenge myself and change my perspective that procrastination is causing me money. Like, one, usually I procrastinate because of fear that something, let's say a new initiative in my business won't work. So then I don't want to go and put in the time because all this negative mind stuff is literally cheating me out of money. And then, two, I don't look at my time as worth as much as it is worth. And so I've been trying to start telling myself more that if I wait, I'm costing myself based on like how much my time is worth and I shouldn't procrastinate. And so you let people have a limited time, basically super discounted upgrade and get VIP like one-on-one calls with you if they signed up early. Um, Plus getting to start the program early and thus move more quickly toward the result of the program. That's nice. Okay, nice.
Yeah, it worked well. And I think too, I had them go through something in the curriculum before we met so that there was some structure to the call and they did feel like, okay, I'm already working through this. And they just feel like they almost got an extra 6 weeks in a sense in the program because they had that early access. So it really felt like, a lot of extra time.
Hmm, cool. So now's the part where we crunch the numbers to see how much each registrant was worth total. And where we're going with this is how much we could spend on ads to get a registrant and whether or not it makes sense at the workshop level. And then we'll go into your actual launch that followed the workshop and do the same thing. So what I'm just going to do is in the calculator, I'm adding up your order bump revenue, which was $1,323. Oops, not in the calculator there. $1,323 plus $1,410, right? Okay, and so that total revenue then was $2,733. And so now we're just gonna divide that by the number of registrants for this paid workshop, which was 30 people, right? And that gives us a oops, I'm in my notes and not in the calculator again. So that gives us a value of $91.10 per registrant. That's huge.
Yeah,
Because
it's big.
yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
Within the context of running Meta, i.e. Facebook and Instagram ads to a paid workshop, we've just figured out what the earnings or sorry, what the earnings per lead, or we can call it earnings per registrant is. And the name of the game is that when we pay, and this is assuming a lot, dear listener, this is assuming good messaging, that you have a variety of ad creative like visuals, and that you've put, messaging is just putting time into the customer or potential customers' pain points, their needs, and how you can serve those in a unique way, but also like figuring out among, let's say, five key pain points or frustrations from the big pain point that your program solves. It's figuring out like which one of those five things actually converts the best, because not all frustrations and not all pain points are created equally. And I always say, do not run ads when you're still figuring out your messaging, because ads is a very expensive way to test messaging. However, once you've done that work, which Megan, you clearly have already, as evidenced by those strong revenue from your first launch, it's it's a beautiful thing to run ads. And so $91 earning per lead. I'll just throw out with a I'll say I've seen, as low as for like an equivalent paid workshop around 47 $37. I've seen like as low as $20 earn it cost per lead to get somebody to buy with ads, and I've seen as high as like, let's say, 80 or $90. I'm giving that range. Like, dear listener, this is where I say a disclaimer. I'm just a Facebook and Instagram ads manager. This is only based on my experience. Uh, it may or may not be true for you. Do not take my advice as gospel, though I believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ and prayer. That is not a valid method for running a business. Like, prayer is good. Run and crunch the numbers in your business and do all the research you can. And that with Facebook and Instagram ads, uh, you can make money, but you're almost always guaranteed to lose money at some point, because it takes testing when you run ads, and not all tests go right, which means you lose some money on testing. But generally, if you're faithful to the process of running ads after your business is doing well organically, and then testing different creative and visuals and ad copy and even ad setups, some tests go wrong. You learn from what doesn't go wrong, and you try again and actually change up what you're doing based on what you learned. That is the path to making money. And there's the full disclaimer. How's that, Megan?
I love it. I'm like, you probably have to do this so often, which I totally understand. And as someone who's been on the other side back in the day, like I, oh my gosh, can attest to that. Like patience, trust the process. It's hard, but it's so important.
And I do that for myself, but then I also do that for like you who's listening right now, because I've been there back when I first encountered a success story that was based in reality, and heard some stats and was like, I'm doing this tomorrow. Phoebe, that's the name of my wife, come up here. Let's go ahead and spend $3,000. And she's like, because she supports me, she's like, okay, great, and what I would have loved back then is if the person had painted a little bit of reality, like, dear listener, dear QUAY.jo, this was going to take work, and here's kind of the work, because people need to know like what you need to put into it before you can get something out of it, and it's absolutely worth it. But people need to know that intermediate step, right?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And actually, even with that, as you're saying, that cost per lead for mine, those people were not cold people to me. They were in my audience for a while. They had engaged with my stuff. So I always like to be transparent with that too, that they were really trusting in my process, I think, when they came. So it was a way easier sell, if you will, than if they didn't know me or trust me or already buy into my process.
Right, right, and that this leads perfectly into the next part where we'll crunch some of the launch numbers. But yeah, as we're running ads, we do run ads to, I usually budget like around 30% in the beginning for a launch registration, uh, to the warm audience, maybe more depending on the size of the warm audiences. And then we do that because, yes, our cost per lead or cost per registration per sale will be higher for cold audience, but we're going to tap out the warm audiences really quick because the warm audiences are usually quite a bit smaller than the cold audience, you know. Um, and so that's a way to start. And then, yeah, some of the nuance that we can't, we probably won't go into on this episode, but some of the nuance is when you run ads to a paid workshop and it actually is at a loss, as in you pay more for ads than you make from that initial workshop registration. But then because you've done it repeatedly and crunched your numbers, you know that the person who comes into the paid workshop converts at a much higher rate into your paid program than just like somebody who comes into a free launch. And so, since that profit, as in that gap between what you're paying for a lead or a paid registrant for the workshop and what you're making per lead is big, healthy, makes sense for your business, then in that case, it makes sense to run ads to a paid workshop at a loss. This is all a numbers game, and the numbers analyzed correctly tell a story. You wanna jump to the conclusion before we crunch the numbers? Like, what's the story as far as how much your leads for that free for your free launch were worth? Do you have that number, or do we?
I believe I do. So the free event was called the Content Fix. That was about 3 or 4 weeks after this workshop. We had 179 opt ins, and I had 8 people join from that. So, same amount of people.
Well, way more opt-ins.
Well, same amount of conversion, I should say. So, but yes, way more opt ins. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it was free. So 179 and then 8 people, which I think I did the math. I think it was 4%.
That would be a 4%. That name that I threw out early, calculating a lead to sale conversion, that right there is a lead to sale conversion rate. Number of purchases divided by number of opt-ins equals a lead to sale conversion rate, and yours is 4%, 4.5%. That's healthy, by the way.
Yeah, I was very happy with that, and especially because we had those other 8 going in and then the private invite. So my goal usually is around 20, and we got exactly 20. So it was felt like a very, aligned launch in that way. And one thing too, I had to remember is I had a couple collaborations that happened right at that time, and those people were so new to me. So the likelihood that they would invest in a $2,500 or $4,000 program, they're probably going to need to wait for the next round, right? And so I had to remember that a lot of those opt-ins were pretty new to my world.
Yeah, yeah, and this is normal. Like, plenty of people come into a launch and wait, sit through one launch, and then wait till the next launch. Uh, oh man, back in the day, like several years ago, I still kind of do consult for launches as part of just ads management because I want my clients to win. But like this question, and how many times have you gotten it too, where somebody's like, "Okay, I've done this launch, a couple times. I feel like I should change what I teach in the free workshop or free program for the next launch because people must be getting bored." You get that one?
Yes, a lot. And it's funny because I'll change maybe the title and if I don't have new people, right? So if I don't have new people, I'll change the title and the tagline, but the content is like exactly the same. Exactly the same. Because I'm like, it worked. Why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
True. And as since you're a parent of young ones like me, it's like, how many times do kids get it the first time we tell them something?
Yes, such a good analogy. It's so true. We're going through that hardcore, getting into the terrible twos. I'm like, love them, but man, woof, we're doing that a lot
Oh
now.
yeah, we're still doing it at 6.5 and 9.5 years old, but man, we lay in bed at night and because Apple, it's just notorious. Right below our photo album, if like I scroll up, like they have those automatically AI generated like just montages of your kids throughout the years, and they just put this sappy music on there, and now I'm just like, I miss my kids were this age. I just heard actually on a podcast on YouTube randomly, but not so randomly, related to kids and memories that nostalgia, which we have, is the memory minus the pain. And that's why it's nostalgia. We think about the memory, we don't remember all the pain. So, my,
Oh, I've never heard that like definition. That makes so much sense. And it's funny because I joke with my some of my friends who are like one and done with their kids, and then they're like, "Are you going to have more?" And I'm like, I don't know. We're like trying to think, and my husband's like, "Did you forget? Did you forget all of that really hard stuff?" And I'm like, "Kind of. I kind of forgot. I'm just thinking about the nap traps and the baby." He's like, "I'm remembering the sleep deprivation." It's so true. Oh my gosh.
my wife always is quick to remind me, like, sleep deprivation is a torture method that's applied by governments, like when interrogating, or militaries when interrogating people.
We do that willingly. So,
Yeah, we do that willingly, and
isn't that funny?
it is, but, I mean, kids are a blessing, like, as hard as it can be from, I guess, time to time, there's those few parents who it just seems like they've got it dialed in, their kids are at in harmony with the parents' will, and the kids are on a self-led journey of self-discovering, and they listen the first time to their parents, and there's 5 kids, by the way, there's always, like, 5 or 6 kids, and you're like, "You're doing it better than me with more kids than me. How is this happening?"
I know. Oh my gosh. It's been really fun just having twins is a live nature versus nurture show, and they are so different. One is just our wild child is like not scared of anything, just fearless and hysterical, so funny, so full of life. The other one is our sensitive one, and he's like more timid but so creative. It's so nice because there's things that he'll listen and the other won't, and I'm like, they're getting disciplined the same, they're getting parented the same, and they're just their own unique person. So it's been really fun. I've loved that part of it.
Yes. Yes. We got some more numbers to crunch for the launch. Alright.
Back to launching.
We got the no, but dear listener, as a quick aside, online business can be lonely if you're not in, like, a community, and, like, we're real people, and I know that you're a real person, and I'm guessing that maybe Megan has the same desire, but, like, do reach out to us, like, DM us on Instagram, you can see our Instagrams right here on screen, like, say hi because it's nice to know the other real people out there that are running an online course, or like, are online coaches or have an online group coaching program. So I just want to invite you to DM us and say hi. We're real people and we like to connect.
Yes, love it.
Cool. Back to the numbers. So we need to figure out what your earning per lead is. We already found your lead to sale conversion rate, and it's and by the way, unhealthy lead to sale conversion rate could be around 2%. Super healthy could be as high as like 8% lead to sale conversion rate, but it does matter at the end of the day how much a program is selling for, right? Because if we have a launch to our program that's only $87, then even like a 10% lead to sale conversion rate might not be moving the needle for our business or making ends meet for our family. So keep that in mind, dear listener. And what was your gross revenue for that launch, Megan?
Gross revenue for this launch, let me just bring this up. So I actually had an interesting thing with this one. I had new sales, and then I had at the same time was launching my continuation program. So total sales from this launch, I'll just give you that.
Wait, hold on. Before you tell me that number, are you saying in the same 3-day event, you actually gave call to actions to sell into your program, and then you were speaking to people who were already in the program and gave a call to action to join the
Yes, because it was kind of happening at the same time. They were up for renewal, so I was giving them the option to continue. So the cash injection happened all at the same time, basically. Yeah, yeah. And I do think that, well, obviously the experience they got in the program is why they continued, but also seeing the launch happen, I think at the same time worked really well. I think the timing of that did well for them to see me promoting this again and all of that and wanting to be in that energy and continuing it. Yeah.
Huh. Remind me again, what's the promise of your program?
I help online coaches and service pros really get their messaging dialed in so they're known for something. They're mostly people who've been in business, they've signed clients before. So they're not brand new, but they're kind of in that messy middle. And they primarily are using social media and feel like they're just blending in like with everyone else. So they need that thing that makes them a little unique. That's really what we hone in on, their edge. And then we put it into their marketing and sales.
And then the result of that is more people buying in.
Yep. More sales, more money, more clients. Yep.
Okay, cool. So then, in a way, it's almost like very meta behind the scenes. If you have some people who are in the program that are also in this launch, and you're giving a call to action for the continuation part of the program, and also while you're launching the first part of the program, it's like they get to see that.
Yeah. I feel like my whole marketing and business this year has been so meta. I'm just like, it's been very inception-y, like everything. I'm like, I'm following my own process, So it's been very interesting to kind of follow my process, have the clients follow the process, and just be so in it with them too. It's been fun.
Yeah, well, that's a lovely way of doing it though, like, not everyone does it that way, but, like, I like the business owners who do because it's like, "Here's how you can make money. Now that you're paying me to teach you, you can observe me doing the exact same things that, like, I'll probably teach you down the line," you know? So, like, that's a beautiful situation. Revenue was just from the
Just from total sales from the launch was 66,907.
66,907, and that was just program. No, that was total.
That was just the program, not the continuation.
Okay, for the purpose of this podcast episode, let's just focus on launch revenue from the program.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, which was
66,907.
wait, you said that's from the continuation.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. That's from just the program, not continuation.
Ah, okay, cool. May have been my ears getting good. I'm gonna blame the medication
No, you're
that's helping
good.
my
It
nerves.
might have been me. You're
Right?
totally good.
Okay, cool. So then 66,900, and then to figure out how much each registrant was worth then, and keep in mind, this is warm traffic to warm-ish traffic that just came in from some collaborations that you were doing. Um, Cold traffic when running ads, the the amount that a registrant is worth is usually going to go down, because they're a lot newer to you and they just came into a launch off of ads. But $66,900, or do you already have this number, divided by 179 opt-ins is?
I don't. I should.
Okay, well, hey, that's why
But you
we're
got your
going through this.
calculator up.
66,907 in revenue divided by 179 opt-ins, i.e. launch registrants for this free launch, does not make sense at all. Am I doing that correctly? That each registrant was worth $377? I must be wrong. Total revenue, just from the program launch, not the continuity program, divided by the number of launch registrants, which was 179. Yours says 373 too? Dang. All right. We're going to take it then. Two calculators cannot lie. That means that each registrant was worth $373. That is a huge earning, a very healthy, very, very healthy earnings per lead. And that right there, because the whole point of this episode is how do you crunch the numbers to see if running meta ads is the next step for a launch, that right there screams you got to run ads to this launch. Like,
Yay. We're ready.
you are ready. So here's some things that will happen, Megan. From my experience, if you haven't already, and I'm just giving, we'll talk about this for a bit, but if you and you decide what you want to talk about, but if you have not already, turn on ads consistently to your free thing. If you have a free thing in your business, like your lead magnet between launches, that is a big mistake that I see lots of people who already have a successful launch. They don't do is they don't start relying on growing their email list in a paid manner with ads between launches. Because with that, this $373 per free, like as in what a free launch registrant, that's really high. And what that means is that your business, the combination of your social media plus your email nurture sequences, is doing a good job, a great job at warming up your subscribers and your followers. So grow that list with paid ads between launches, And then also, uh, the good news is when you start to run ads to your launch, like, you can actually tell me this number. In my experience, no matter how big somebody's email list is, and no matter how good they are at sending out emails, um, organically, as in just from the percentage of the email list that actually registers for the launch, is usually right around 1% of the entire email list will ever register for a launch. And if you start to creep toward 2%, you're like knocking it out of the park. Do you know the percentage of your entire email list that those 179 opt-ins makes?
Just like, I need to do the math. So I had, I think at the time, I think I had around 3,000 subscribers.
Okay. Oh, so yours is on the higher end then. 179 launch registrants divided by 3,000 email subscribers equals almost 6%. So that's very high.
I'm so glad you shared that, because to me, I was like really not bummed, but I thought I'd get way more opt-ins. Um, so it's nice to hear that that's actually like a good percentage.
That's a very, 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 very strong percentage. And I ask this of, I won't say all of my ad clients, but of many, and including coaching clients that I had back when I used to coach funnels and all this stuff. Um, so yeah, Megan, you gotta after you finish your launch ads, turn on the lead magnet ads, because these numbers are not quite staggering, but very close to staggering. Like they're they're big green flags for running ads. Let's see what else. So when you run ads, to for your next launch, since your earnings per lead is so high for your warm audience, like I would probably start out with like 50% of your initial ad budget targeted at your warm audiences, if not 60. Uh, Once you see your key stats dropping, as so that's either going to be cost per lead for the free part of your launch, or if you decide to do the paid workshop again, that's going to be cost per sale for your paid workshop. But like as you see those numbers start to drop or go up, that's when you want to shift more of the budget into cold audience if you're seeing good numbers with cold audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, that's helpful.
That's my recommendation for your first adventure.
Look at that, pun
Uh,
intended.
yeah, right? 'Cause you're gonna run them yourself, or you said your husband will run them this
Yeah,
first time
he's
around,
gonna
right?
need a little coaching, but yes.
Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm open for that coaching if it
yeah,
makes sense, or if he wants to just get some stats and do it himself the first time around, then we can coach again after, but start there. Um, in general, you wanna start, like you have to decide what your total launch budget is. I think that's maybe outside the scope of this episode, but just pick your total launch ads budget and be conservative. You know, now we've calculated together your earnings per lead for the paid workshop and the free event. Start from there and just be conservative, right? Like if you got a $373 earnings per lead, can this whole thing still work if you just start calculating at a $200 earnings per lead? Like you have room to be ultra conservative. And if you're ultra conservative, then your risk of losing money on Facebook and Instagram ads is a lot lower, right?
I'd much rather do that in the beginning anyway, yeah.
So please do that when looking at your earnings per lead. And the reason earnings per lead matters is because when you turn on those ads, you just monitor your cost per lead or cost per registration, and you know that profit gap. Like, I can pay up to this much to make this much. And that's kind of how you start setting like benchmarks for, are my ads, like it's the question everyone has, like, are my ads doing good? Well, that depends on what your leads are worth. And you know
Yeah, for sure. Oh, this is so helpful. I'm excited now.
Yay! I mean, you should be excited. Like
I know this
I'm
is for like
excited.
the listeners, but I'm selfishly excited to start doing this. Yay. And it's so refreshing because just to your point, like I ran ads to a launch in 2021 to a program that wasn't proven, to a program I had never launched before. And I just was like, let's go all in. And I invested $30,000 in ads, and I end to a $1,000 program. I ended up having 80 people join, but I spent so much on the funnel expert who helped me. The design, I think I profited maybe $10,000. Maybe. Yeah. So I learned a very big lesson. And I think I just thought, oh, ads, let's go. Let's just run it. And I didn't test the offer. I didn't test the messaging because I thought, oh, I know my people. I know they need this. Yes, and I just found that of those 80, I think 70 of them already knew me and would have signed up without an ad. You know what I mean? Like, or with a retargeting ad maybe. Like, but not a it was just such a good I'm very grateful for that experience. It taught me a lot. And so I needed like a couple years to go, okay, let's take a break and now I'm ready to get ready again because we've tested and, done what you recommend people do.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Well, I'm glad that even though it was a sizable investment, that you still did profit, but ow, yeah, that hurts when you look at the numbers and
Yeah. I was like, "Oh gosh, this was supposed to be a really, really big launch." It's such a good learning lesson, and I shared it with my audience. And I was a year later, I think I was ready to share. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna pull the curtain back and share what I did wrong, what I learned from it." And it was a good learning experience in the end. So
yeah, it's we've all been there. I've lost tons of money on ads. Like, when I ran ads the first time around to my course, back when I taught, like, Chinese to, expats in China, like, I remember doing webinars and 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 running ads to it and starting to figure it out, and actually, yeah, I just remember spending way too much money and then not getting the results, and that sinking feeling, and then the even worse feeling when I had to, like, actually be accountable for the money and, like, go to my wife and tell her, and then to see, like, the look on her face and, like, the hope and support that she had, but then, like, the her husband didn't pull it off like he had hoped, and then it's like, that's money is life. Like, let me explain what I mean. Money is life, as in, for most of the population, like, we make our money through earning, and even if we're lucky enough to make a lot of money through investments, quote unquote, passively, those investments usually took money from earning that we traded life for. And as far as I believe, we don't get a second chance at life. So money is life. Like, however much of our hours we had to put in to get money, and so it hurts.
yeah, I love that. That's such a good way to think of it. Yeah, it's so true. Where and that's why I think with entrepreneurship, while it can be so hard at so many moments, when I think about the alternative of what I would do, I always come back to it. I'm like, nope, I choose this hard over what else I would do.
It's all hard.
It's all hard.
It's all hard.
It's
Pick
so
your
true.
hard, right?
Pick your heart.
It really is all difficult.
Yeah.
All that is to say, dear listener, these numbers should help you look at the percentages too. We didn't necessarily go into a ton of percentages, but look at the percentages. Use this logic to crunch numbers for your launch after you've had a successful launch. If your launch isn't quite there, spend time on the messaging to get people there and maybe tweak the offer a bit. But use this way to crunch numbers, and obviously you can short circuit your path by paying someone, an expert, to help you. And of course, you know me, so you know me well enough, or you've heard enough episodes to understand that this isn't just like a pitch to try to get you to spend money with, like, me or a stranger who's less of a stranger now, Megan. But at the same time, when you invest your money with coaches or in programs with people who you've done research on, right? And and hopefully you understand that from this episode too, like, that their numbers are real. You do short circuit, you shortcut the time that it takes you to get results, provided you implement what they are saying. And with that, I'll share that, like, some of the best investments I've made have been in programs, and also one-on-one coaching. Um, Very, 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 very high ROI, because you see what's working. Somebody can look at what's not working in your business and then show you the path from how to get from what you're not doing right to what is going right or what can go right for you. So that's my pitch, if you will, to say, find Megan's link, get the $47 workshop that she's offering called the Edge Led Launch System from the descriptions below, but apply what she is sharing with you, because that's where it is, the application of knowledge. And also what we're never supposed to do. But two call to actions: if you're at a point right now where you need me to look at your ads to figure out like what's the most profitable next step for you, or the next three things that you need to change up in your ads so they work better, that is called a 48-hour ad audit, as in within 2 business days you will have my expert decision on what you can do with those. That is another paid thing that I offer for you, and that is below. Megan Klotz, that you would want the listener to take away, because somebody's listening right now, they are super dedicated to the growth of their business.
I would say it's very much in line with the comment that you made that we were talking about how people want to change the crux of what they teach in their vehicle. I've been talking about this quite a bit with my clients the last few weeks. I have gotten really good at being redundant and saying the same thing over and over again. And I primarily use Instagram. And so it can feel like on our end that we're just I hate this phrase, but beating a dead horse. We need a better phrase than that. But that's the phrase, right? And it's because you see every piece of content you put out, you read every email you put out, and you hear every podcast. But unless your audience is a diehard and they are watching every little thing you do, they're probably in your offer or they're obsessed with you. Otherwise, they're not seeing everything. And so I think that is why I've had the like comeback year, if you will. I took off last year to have my babies, kind of felt really lost coming back. And I feel like this was a comeback year because I stayed the course and I didn't try to veer off in a million different messages. I kept honing and honing and honing and repeating and repeating and repeating. And now the cool thing is, after a year of doing this, people are repeating my phrases to me. I need to find my edge. I need to get my distinctive edge. And that's the coolest. Like I just got chills saying that. That's the coolest part about this is it's taken on its own life. And if I just veered because like my second behind the scenes launch actually did worse than my first, I wouldn't have had those two we just dissected. So that's my biggest thing is just get comfortable with being really redundant in your messaging.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, especially because it gets boring being redundant. And then when it gets boring, our brains do all sorts of things, because that's how they're designed, to seek like more stimulation. And sometimes we forget like boring is working, the numbers are well, and nobody hears what you're saying when you first say it. And if they do hear it, they filter it through their own mental filter that is made up by all of their life experience, which is substantial as we get older, and whatever's going on in the most recent month in their business, and so it does take multiple times.